Well, a very big welcome to the fourth broadcast show live, hot on the heels of IBC. And as you would expect, once again, we have a great lineup of guests, news, reviews, and technology demonstrations. You're not one of them. Now, we have a packed green room for today's show. If you've read the latest TV Bay magazine, you will hopefully be wiser on the subject of archive and storage. And to complement this, we will be discussing disk or tape, what role the cloud plays, solutions featured at IBC last week. With us to help answer these questions and more, we will have Nick from Object Matrix and Raj from SGL. Also, so you've decided on some new kit. Now, how are you going to fund it? We've got Peter from Azule Finance here, and he's going to look at the state of the industry and some of the funding options open to you, as well as some of his views on IBC. Also, we'll be taking a look at the pick of IBC releases from Panasonic, Blackmagic Design, Teradek, and other manufacturers with Richard, who runs technical developments at the distributor Holdan. And what about prompting? If you use a prompter, like I do sometimes, then this is a show not to miss. We've got Simon from AutoScript, and we'll be chatting in the studio about the sort of top 5 things people look for in a prompting solution. And of course, it wouldn't be a broadcast show live if we didn't have a tested to destruction Pelly case for you. So, of course, we've been up to our Pelly tricks again, and this time we're going to see how an egg and a wine glass got on when they were dragged over rough terrain at speed, something you must have to see. Now, earlier today, we had another mystery box arrive from our friends at UPS. It seems to be happening every month now. Just what was in it, well, we'll let you know later on in the show. Well, first of all, as I said earlier, a bit of news. Peter, we've got Peter Savage here. Hi, Peter, from Azule Finance. So, Peter, first of all, tell us a little bit about IBC. What did you get out of it? You had a wander around for 5 days. Tell us a bit about it.
I did. I survived, which is one of the first things that happens at IBC. But what I found from IBC was it was more of the same, really. There was nothing substantially new. I think there was a couple of new small cameras fitting into the sort of a higher end of the market. But substantially nothing new, which I think is quite good because it shows that the formats are now settling, so it might be a case where cameramen can actually invest. The hire companies have sort of had it on their own territory for a long time because there's been a proliferation of format, and now it seems to be settling. So, for instance, I think 2K is where sort of drama sits, and it is the format of choice. I think that 3D is still probably too niche to become too big, and I think it's found its place. I think it sits very well in some of the sporting applications, but general TV watching, I think, it's a long way off. Also, I think 4K is very interesting. I think 2K has got the market at the moment, but I think 4K could come when people, all the manufacturers say the workflow is there. I just think that people have to understand where the workflow is going. And then, it was quite interesting with the big 64-inch plasma that Sony had on their stand. And actually, the definition on those pictures, I know I never spend 30,000 euros on a home TV, but it happened that way with plasma, and it's coming. And 4K, the definition was absolutely fantastic. And that's me being a very non-techie. I am, a finance man through and through.
Brilliant. Now, you were mentioning that it seems to have, there's nothing particularly new this year at IBC. Things have sort of settled down, maybe. So all those people who were waiting for this next thing to come along, it seems that, right, they might want to start buying a camera now. Okay, so we're going to go 2K for this, or 3D for this, and they're looking to buy a piece of kit now. So as I've got you here, it would be remiss of me not to talk about how on earth can people afford to buy some of these cameras. So what are some of the funding options that are available to people?
Okay, if we could start with cameras. Cameras is a good situation. There are, at the moment, one thing to look for if you are thinking is look for manufacturer subsidised programs.
Yeah.
There is plenty about at the moment, to name none in any particular order. Canon, Sony, Avid, and I think Panasonic do as well,
Yeah.
all have some form of subsidised program, which is very much like the car industry, where you go and you buy a Volkswagen for 0% or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you pick your technology, you should be able to push and get a very good deal on the finance at the moment. It's because basically all the manufacturers need to sell their products at the moment, so they're pushing it into the market. So they're making all these programs to actually get you to buy their particular product.
Yep.
The choice on technology is obviously yours. If you're outside of those programs, money costs are still quite expensive in the market. Despite the low base rates that are sitting in the market, the banks are still taking their pound of flesh and more. Yeah. And unless you go and without sounding our bell to a specialist, you'll tend to find the banks will overcharge you or over collateralize you, take too much security for your loan. So be very careful. Yeah. On other ways of getting particular funding, if you're looking at business funding outside of equipment funding, there are a whole host of ways that you can actually go about approaching it. The standard ways that people look at is either with friends or family to start them off, and that is the largest amount of injection of capital in any small business always comes from people you know. Sure. Be careful, because your friends and families could be fools, or you could fall out with them. It's the 4 Fs. You're either fools, friends, family, or fall out with them. Right. So the banks, they are still very sceptical, so be wary of them. And then there's social funding and different ways of funding, which I think we might come on to. Yeah, well, it's interesting because I'm just checking, and we've had a tweet in asking so they're saying, what is crowdfunding? Crowdfunding. Okay, crowdfunding is a fairly new thing in the UK. It's been going on for about 10 or 15 years in the States. Originally started on film finance, where people used to post out on the internet and say, look, I think I've got this great. It normally started with green or scientific stuff, and they said, I've got this great idea on this film. How many other people agree with this ecological thing? Yep. And then people started investing dollars upwards to $10 to $10,000. So it's a way where you can go onto crowdfunding sites now. You can put up your idea, whether it's your business or whether you've got a film to make, and people will invest in it. Right. What I will say, the one thing to make sure that you've got a better chance of anything is that I went to a crowdfunding seminar and they said, always have a business plan, because if you don't have a business plan, people will not understand how they're eventually going to get anything back from putting their money in there. Gotcha, understood. Thank you, very helpful. So now we've obviously had the Olympics. Yeah. And being a finance guy, you probably know a little bit about this. Now the Olympics were saying it's just going to make you stacks of cash as a hirer, as a provider of services and products to whoever's involved in the Olympics. How did that work out? Well, to be honest, at the top end, I can imagine the likes of CIS and people like that who had the major contracts did very well out of the Olympics. At the lower end, it was the complete reverse. Right. So a couple of funny stories, or not so funny for the people involved. Post-production company in London in advertising, it went completely dead over that period because no one was doing commercial shooting at that time. Hire companies, no one was doing drama at the time because everyone feared that London was going to be full of tourists. So, if you were going to film, I know it's not on the TV, but spooks in the middle of central London, you couldn't get permissions to get all the roads. So in fact, in all the people we've spoken at a very micro, low level, it's actually been a disaster for them. Right. But from now on, I know that all the drama companies and all the big hire companies are very busy from September onwards. So the legacy is probably in the infrastructure, but in the micro end, I don't think there's much benefit. So banks are finding it hard to still fund you. It's not been great for the small guy necessarily with the Olympics. Is it all doom and gloom? What's the prospects like? Well, the prospects I think are reasonable because the UK economy has bottomed out. For the first time it's reported unemployment figures have gone down. That is a major indicator for August, and that is very surprising. So we think the economy is now flattened. Interest rates are low. So if you've got a good business plan at the moment and you can plan well, I think there's room for growth, especially in broadcast. But you never know. If advertising stops, and always watch ITV, ITV's figures. ITV's figures are the bellwether. They've got a bad year this year because BBC and Channel 4 had all the major sports. But let's see what they do next year. If you follow them, you'll tend to know how broadcast is working. That's
great, Peter. Thank you for coming on. It's been interesting as always. If people want to find out a little bit more about Azule Finance and see if you can help them, could you let us know the website?
Yeah, the website is www.azule.co.uk, and I'm peter.savage@azule.co.uk. So feel free to email me.
Brilliant, Peter.
Tweet or whatever.
Tweet as well. We like that. Peter, thank you very much for coming on. Well, thanks, Peter. That's great. I just want to, as we're doing thank yous, let's just thank Stream UK. Stream UK are offering the streaming to this, plus they're looking after the on-demand version. Now, these on-demand versions are receiving massive number of views. We've been quietly impressed, I have to say, on the likes of YouTube and other social channels. And we thank Stream UK for that. And you also may recall that on previous shows, we had Selwyn in the studio talking about satellite solutions. Now, if you didn't know, we liked it so much that we ended up buying one of their systems, and it is currently sitting on the roof here at BroadcastShow Towers, and what you're seeing now is being streamed through that satellite. If you want some information on it, you can see the link on screen. Give them a call or email. Have a look at their website. They've been really helpful for us, and we thank them for that. Now, we mentioned earlier about archiving, and today I have Nick Pearce with me from Object Matrix. Nick, thank you for coming on.
No problems.
Now, if people don't know, tell us first of all a little bit about Object Matrix and what you do.
Object Matrix are a software company from Cardiff in sunny South Wales.
Yep.
We've been around 9 years. We're veterans of the storage industry. We produce Matrix Store, which is a nearline storage product for protecting rushes, ongoing projects, or it's a platform for keeping content that needs to be reused or repurposed.
Yep. So you're kind of qualified to talk about archiving.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. So now people talk about archiving. Now there's obviously disk-based archiving, but of course there's still tape-based archiving. Tell us a bit about each, and what should we be using?
I think it's a case of how appropriate the platform is for your use of the data. So if you're an organization that needs to repurpose data, have it available for distributing to multiple platforms, sort of monetizing the content you own, then maybe having it on a tape platform where the tape's on a shelf isn't that appropriate. If you have that requirement, then having it on a sort of spinning disk platform is more appropriate, in fact. What isn't appropriate is keeping single copies of data, whether it's on tape or disk. And the reason this industry likes LTO tape is because it reminds them of a distributor tape.
Right, yeah.
And in the past, they had a single copy of that on a shelf somewhere. That was the master. And if anything went wrong, they went back to the master.
Gotcha.
And they're treating LTO in much the same way. Whereas in reality, it's good digital preservation practice. Means that you should have multiple copies in multiple locations. Yeah. Check the authenticity of that content regularly, which is quite a manual process and often gets ignored.
So on the basic level, if you are a video professional of some kind, you're obviously taking lots of footage for your clients, you're editing it all, you've got your original footage. What should they be doing to manage this content? How should they be looking after it?
Well, I think IT is racing into the broadcast industry, and unfortunately, creative professionals have to embrace it. Yeah. There's no longer a choice. All of the cameras that we're hiring or buying are mostly disk-based or flash-based. So we have to get into some sort of practice of good management of naming structures for folders, having directory structures that have client names, shoot names, days, so that you can simply find stuff if you don't have an asset management system. Right. Multiple copies, ensuring that you can have authentic multiple copies. There are some cheap tools out there for doing that, and as you get into the facility side, there are solutions that can automate those processes for you.
So, assuming they've taken all their footage, they've archived it nicely and they've got their structures, but they've also got other assets coming in, not necessarily just so you've got the music assets, you might have some stock footage assets and graphic assets that are coming. How are you going to track all this stuff down over, after a year of doing this, you'll have terabytes of data. How would you?
So now we've got people used to the word file-based and terabytes and even the word petabyte we're starting to understand. the dreaded metadata word comes in there, which is, data about data.
Yeah.
So if we don't, during the ingest process,
Yep.
if we don't tag things with relevant information that we can find useful to find stuff later on,
Yep.
then we're never going to find it. So, the old adage is if you can't find it, you don't have it.
Yep.
And it's very true in this industry. At home, in our personal lives, finding things on our 1 terabyte drive is sometimes difficult enough. If you've got tens of terabytes coming through your facility every week, or you're a wedding videographer, then it's the same problem. You have to protect your customers' assets and find them when they need them back.
Yeah.
And more people are turning to digital asset management solutions. Companies like Cantemo from Sweden,
Right.
producing very nice web-based solutions that can help find your content.
Yep.
So once people have got the data on their disk or their tape, they now need to sort of organize where it is.
Right.
And that's where the asset management solutions come in.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, we're going to touch on this in more detail with Raj from SGL,
Yeah.
but give us your take on cloud archiving.
Right. So there's probably 100 people on Twitter laughing at this moment because I do have a bit of a soapbox. I didn't bring it with me.
Here we go.
No. Well, basically, we've all been using some form of cloud service for years and years. Hotmail is a perfect example. Yeah. But do we trust our sole copy of our assets to a cloud provider if we don't know who they are, where the data is being kept?
Yeah.
So we, as a company, Object Matrix, prefer a more hybrid model where we keep our assets local.
Yep.
And maybe you keep your second or third copy in the cloud as your backup.
Yeah.
We're more seeing the cloud at the moment as a very useful tool for collaboration.
Right.
You've got the likes of Foreseen, A-Frame, and also if Adobe execute on the Anywhere product that was launched at IBC, that's really going to be a game changer for people to keep their assets locally and then collaborate anywhere in the world.
Gotcha.
So we firmly believe that it has its place. And at the moment, with bandwidth as it is, even in the metropolis that is Newbury, you can't always have the bandwidth to get these big data files in and out of the cloud. So proxy workflows, perfect for that sort of thing. Keeping your high resolution 2K, 4K, and hopefully 8K from a manufacturer's storage manufacturer's perspective, that needs to be local.
Gotcha. Understood. Right. Finally, I better ask you as you're here now. At IBC, you launched the Matrix Store Quattro.
We did, yes.
I had a quick look, but tell us a bit about it. How did it go down?
Okay, so we have an enterprise level product, which is 2U, it takes up a lot of rack space. And previously, EDF, the power company, asked us to build a mini system.
Yep.
We built that mini system for them, used it very nicely.
Yep.
And Supermicro came out with a 2U chassis that you can actually have 4 nodes in one 2U form factor.
Yep.
So it's great for smaller post facilities who don't have the budget for the enterprise level solution.
Yep.
But it's also fantastic for outside broadcast where they need very small form factor, sits in a rack, doesn't take up much space, and is combined. Gotcha. The exciting thing about it is that the 4th node doesn't have to be a Matrix Store node. It could be an application node. Right. So again, our friends in Sweden from Cantemo, they're going to run their asset management solution on that node. Yep. And a number of our ingest partners are discussing with us how they can bundle up the application and the storage in one nice sort of form factor. Brilliant.
Nick, thank you for coming on.
No worries.
If people want to find out a bit of information from you guys, what's your website?
So our website is object-matrix.com.
Yep.
We have a blog, which is matrixstore.net, and our Twitter ID is object_matrix.
Brilliant. Nick, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's been very informative, I
Great.
can tell you that. I
Thank
will
you.
make sure I have multiple copies everywhere.
Good man. Cheers.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick, for coming on. What we're going to do now is, if you remember, I mentioned earlier on, right at the head of this show, that we had another delivery from UPS. Now, that came earlier. Last one came in the middle of the show, but this time it came a little bit earlier today, so we had a chance to use it, and we're actually using it now. So what we got was their new, it's from Lynx Technic, it's their new HDSDI to HDMI converter, and we stuck that into our green room, which means we basically have a 40-inch plasma screen in there, and people in the green room are watching me as I speak. It's great. It's your typical HDSDI to HDMI converter, but it's got nice little options, like it's very easy to select the audio output on it. It's got a fiber I/O as well. It does AES input, 16 channels de-embedded from the SD. I think it's quite good. So at the moment, it's doing a very basic operation in there, but we're going to test that further over the next couple of weeks. And we also got from them basically the reverse, the HD SDI to HDMI, and our GoPro, which hopefully you saw in our green room, is going through that at the moment, because of course the Hero 2 GoPro has HDMI out. And if we are able to switch over, there it is, look at that. There you can see it doing the conversion at the moment. So our GoPro is plugged into that HDMI, and it is converting it to a nice HD SDI signal that we can put to our switcher. Obviously lets you do embedded audio and other things like that. I think we're going to find out all sorts of stuff about them. Brand new, came in today. We've plugged them in and they work straight out of the box, which is what we like. About £480 each, which isn't bad, I have to say. But we'll keep you informed on how they go. We're going to test them a little bit more thoroughly. Right, now, again, we mentioned about archiving. We've got Raj Patel here. Hi, Raj from SGL. Now, Raj, we've talked a bit about local archiving now. So let's go on to cloud archive. Now, how do SGL define a cloud archive?
Well, we at SGL define the cloud in 3 different ways.
Yeah.
One is a private cloud where you have storage or access to your archive locally.
Yep.
So like through a wide area network.
Yep.
A public cloud where you could uses like Amazon, where you can store things away from where you are locally.
Yep.
And a hybrid cloud where customers would have some files stored locally and then the rest hosted by a service provider.
Right. Okay. So why would you use cloud storage?
It's more and more people looking for a central repository to hold their assets, but then be available to people around.
Yep.
An example is we have a customer who has 4 sites. The
Yep.
furthest being away 1,500 kilometers. And what they need to be able to do is share the assets,
Right.
but they want them also for disaster recovery in a central repository where they can be kept safely.
Yep.
So what they've done is they've set up a private cloud where each site generates its own material and assets, puts them away. They're filed also locally and also in the central repository.
Right.
So that gives them the ability to share the material, but also have disaster recovery because it's stored in 2 places.
Okay. So you mentioned about, private cloud storage. Now, a lot of people think about the cloud as this great big public internet area, and I'm sure a lot of broadcasters do as well. So how comfortable are you finding broadcasters storing stuff in what can be considered a public area?
Well, this is the big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of broadcasters are really unwilling to let their assets go. Yeah. And not because it's more about security and copywriting. Do you really want to give your assets to somewhere? The security is a big issue. We've seen, with the banks and things, and broadcasters are really worried about that. And also copyright infringement. Yeah. You're putting your assets somewhere, and then how do you know someone's using it without paying you back for them? So what we're seeing from our customers is they're willing to set up a private cloud, but they're not willing to go public. But there again, slowly, smaller broadcasters are looking, because the capex of deploying a cloud in a private cloud, that's a large cost. So they're trying to bring that down by seeing if someone could host a service for them.
Right. So when you're talking about setting up a private cloud, you are talking about the client effectively owning the servers.
That's right.
On somewhere on.
Exactly.
In the internet.
Exactly. Or in the internet, or a disaster recovery area,
right.
or a data center somewhere, away from their normal place of business, so that you've got the assets, but they are your assets and you're in control of them.
So you own the servers.
Exactly.
You've got them co-located at somebody's rack somewhere, but the hardware on the internet is yours. Okay.
Yeah.
Whereas a public system is something like Amazon S3.
Exactly. It's a hosted service.
Right.
You send your assets away, and then they're available to you.
Yeah. So, in which case, you own the content, but not the hardware in which the content is sitting on.
Exactly. So you've got no capex, but you've got operating costs.
Right.
So a small broadcaster,
Yeah.
that's quite beneficial.
Right.
You know, they don't have to have the big capex expenditure of setting up a cloud, effectively, or buying the servers and the archiving.
So is there solutions on the public side? If we're talking about a smaller broadcaster who wants to store something, obviously he can't afford to have terabytes of storage space sitting somewhere on the internet on his own servers, but wants to use a service similar to Amazon S3. If he puts stuff up there, it's not actually publicly available for people to find his content. I'm assuming there is some kind of technology wrapping around this to prevent.
There is.
Right.
There is, and people like IBM are offering this sort of service.
Yeah.
And there are other people now, players coming into the market, looking at this sort of opportunity to offer hosted service.
Right.
But your large broadcasters are still worried that this is their assets.
Gotcha.
And that's where,
So with this cloud storage, and I have it, and I like to think at home, for example, I have a fairly reasonably good broadband connection thing, but it's still going to take a while to get this stuff up. How do you get material in and out of this cloud storage system? What's the way of doing it?
Well, in the professional market, what we're looking at is there's a standardized approach called LTFS, which is a way of writing to a tape, an LTO5 tape, and what we've agreed is that LTO5 and above tapes will have this format. And what that means is that the drive, when you plug a tape in, becomes like a drive, like a flash drive.
Okay.
So you can take material in and out. Now, as LTO5 material gets cheaper, tapes get cheaper.
Yep.
You can take your camera stuff, put it in, and then just transport the tapes.
Right.
And put it out there for into your
Yep.
archive.
Yeah.
And that makes it a lot easier for transporting material and getting stuff in and out from the cloud. So it stops being non-proprietary.
Yes. Gotcha.
And that's the critical part.
Yeah.
With LTFS, this file system, it becomes completely non-proprietary.
Right. So the key thing is about this cloud archive, obviously it's fairly new anyway, and it's constantly changing. There's always there's new technologies coming along, and it's something that we should look at kind of embracing now instead of keeping these things stuck under the bed.
I think so. I think people are looking at it and getting more and more, looking, can we, because it's the capex expenditure is the big thing for broadcasters, how do you drive the capex down and keep, operating costs to a minimum? So there are technologies out there, and we at SGL, supporting LTFS, are trying to move forward with that.
Brilliant. Raj, thank you. Now, you mentioned SGL. You're around to help people do this. So if people want to find out a little bit more about cloud archiving and solutions and things, obviously you guys can help. What's the website we can send them to?
It's sglbroadcast.com.
Brilliant. Raj, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was great. So you have heard about everything you need to know, hopefully, about archiving, and at least you know who to contact who should be able to help you, certainly with the cloud archiving and, of course, local TISC and tape archiving with Object Matrix as well. They have a wealth of knowledge, and it's great to have them coming on. And if you do have questions about subjects like this, please make sure you email them in or ask them in the chat room or tweet them in, because we can put them to these people, get them in contact, and that's what this show is all about. Another thing this show is all about, it seems to be, is the Pelly Challenge that we tend to do every month now. I mentioned it earlier. We've been testing this Pelly 1600 case to destruction, and what was it, a couple of days ago now, we went out and tried again. Have a look at this. We're testing the Pelly case 1600 to destruction, and today we are testing it while being dragged behind a vehicle. We think this is something that could actually happen, and today we're going to test it in this field. We've got the BroadcastShow vehicle, and we're going to see how well it stands up. And just to make sure it works, I've equipped it with a few pieces of kit. Under this foam, we've got a wine glass. Let's say that is representing a lens. And I'm not going to take it out. What I will show you, we have an egg. and I assure you it has not been hard boiled, and we'll see how well this stands up to being towed around this field in this vehicle here. Let's find out. So we've done a few laps around this field. We took the GoPro off halfway just in case we smashed it to bits, and then carried on going. As you can see, we got some air out of the thing, gave it a good bashing. We haven't touched the case, and this is basically where it's ended up. So we are opening this live. Let's find out what's happened. So here we go. Obviously, well, let's look at it. The case itself, well, we were on grass, so we didn't expect to be that much damage on the case. And obviously everything has stayed in one piece, all the catches are together. Here's the foam, obviously in the middle, no problem at all. Okay, we'll see if we can get a close up from here. There is everything as it was. So what we're going to do, my little table, my wine glass, perfectly intact. If I can get it without breaking it. One egg, and I feel I need to prove this to you. Here we go. That was an egg. So there you have it, dragging your kit around a field in a Peli case 1600. Your kit will receive no damage if packaged correctly inside. And I would say another win for the Peli case. So there you go. It protected our egg and it protected our wine glass. I'd also like to point out that it seems to be particularly stain resistant because that was a field full of sheep and sheep leave mess, and you should have seen the state of the rope. In fact, you should have seen the state of our shoes. I would like to mention at the end of that, I mentioned about making sure your kit is properly packed, and what I should have really mentioned is that, of course, that Peli can do a custom foam insert for you as well for your kit, which is beautifully cut so it fits your kit perfectly rather than just use pick and puck foam, which is what we used. Right, forgive me for the moment. We are now going to pay some bills. Please take a quick look at this advert from AJA. How long's it? Like them who really help keep this show going. So I mentioned earlier we're going to talk prompters, and I've got Simon Clark here. Hi, Simon.
Hi, John.
Now you're from AutoScript, and now we've got a prompter here, and I'm sure lots of people are thinking of getting one.
Absolutely.
What sort of things? I mean, you can just go to a shop and buy a prompter, surely. What do you need to consider when you're purchasing one of these things?
Firstly, it comes down to the application.
Right.
Is it going to be just in a studio?
Yep.
Is it a newsroom application? Is it a standalone system for a small studio
Yep.
or business, educational sort of property? So the variations will be in a newsroom, for example, you need software that will connect into a newsroom systems like
Right.
iNews or EMPS or Dialect or Octopus,
Yep.
and have the ability to do live updates as news changes and rearrange all stories as they come
Yep.
in there. So newsroom is probably the most complicated, I guess, of the applications.
Right. So when looking at a prompter, it's not just about the physical hardware as well. It's about the whole prompter infrastructure. Shall we say.
Absolutely, the software and what it needs to interact to and how
Yep.
it interacts. Absolutely.
So now there's different sizes of prompters. You can get them from iPhones up to, I'm sure, massive screen sizes. How do you decide what sort of size prompter you need?
It will come down to basically how far away the talent is from the camera. Generally, I mean, there are differences. Of course, everyone's eyesight is slightly different.
Sure.
If you took, for example, say there was a dancing show on Saturday nights in
Yep.
television hosted by an elderly gentleman with poor eyesight
Yep.
and a younger lady with very good eyesight, there will be differences in size of the text actually on that
Yeah,
prompter.
sure.
So you can change the size of the text between
Yeah.
that. But generally, it's a distance away from the camera. And also it comes down to how much weight you can get. Obviously, if you're in the field of an ENG system, you might just have a very small camera, a very small panel.
So size is one thing.
It's very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Quality is another.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, surely it's just a piece of glass and a monitor underneath. I mean, I've seen some people on eBay selling them made up what looks like cardboard boxes and a Dell LCD screen underneath. I mean, is there a difference in the quality of these things?
There is a difference, and you're absolutely right. I mean, in its basic form, it's a small screen pointing up as a mirror, reflecting back at the talent. But there's big differences. For a start, you need to look at the brightness of the screen.
Yeah.
And really, if you look at some of the cheaper systems, there might be a 16:9 off-the-shelf monitor laid on its back, which is fine, but you don't need a 16:9 for
Sure.
prompting. Ideally, you want a 4:3 so that the presenter's not looking across a
Understood,
wide range. And some of those panels are not really designed to lay on the back, designed to stand up, so that's how they stay cool with air coming back. So there's differences, and like you say, you could pay a few £100 for a prompting system or many thousands of pounds for a prompting system. The top-end systems used by a lot of the broadcasters will be a custom design panel, a 4:3 ratio, incredibly bright, up to 1,600 nits of brightness with 1,001 contrast range, typically. And they will have cooling systems that are run quiet, which are temperature controlled. They will have the ability to shut off if there's nothing happening. So there's quite a bit difference built into prompters.
So you mentioned contrast and things. I mean, what sort of difference does having a high contrast, high brightness screen make to the actual viewing experience, should we say?
Not so much for the viewing experience, but for the talent, the presenter. If there's a nice, bright, clear text for them to read, then it makes their job so much easier. If it's a little bit dim, then it's going to be a little bit trickier.
To be squinting and things
Exactly,
like that.
yeah, it's not ideal.
If you're going to have one of these and you're working a lot, there's a lot of, small studios similar like this, and the talent needs to control, and you haven't got a big master control room behind you with all the software. Can you control these things yourself?
Absolutely. There's a number of different ways of controlling it. Generally, the presenter, the talent may have a hand control. This is usually wireless, or a foot control. They can use their foot to accelerate through the script, or switch back to a previous story or the next story.
Okay.
And then if there is an operator sitting remotely operating this, that might be a desk control with a hand control like that.
And what sort of
It's just one of them. There's also voice-activated controls where the presenter will actually talk and the software will actually track the voices as they come through and keep up with that.
Gotcha. We'll talk about this in a minute that you've got in front of you, but other displays you can get on these prompters as well. It's not just necessarily about the words going up in the screen, is it?
Absolutely. There's quite a few things that productions want to get from the prompting center. Quite often there's a clock, an actual time display. I don't know if you can see the one on the front of here. There's actually a clock display which will have a live time or a countdown of how the show's competing. There's often a tally light which is switched to the tally of the camera, which will change color. This display will actually change color with the camera switching on from green to red when it's live.
Gotcha.
And then quite common these days is actually a video on-air monitor on front of the prompting system, giving the presenter, the talent, a live feedback of what's going on.
Right. And this one you've got in front, which is one of your more recent additions to the AutoScript family, I believe.
Indeed it is. This is what we're calling Epic. It's an enhanced prompting information center.
And is it epic?
It's absolutely epic. Okay. It's amazing. The main difference is the on-air talent monitor we just spoke about.
Yes.
When that's fitted on front of a prompting system, one of the issues people have is that there's a mounting bracket holding that to the camera support. That support restricts any tilt on the camera. So what we've done here with the Epic, if I just loosen this off, this is actually the talent monitor built into, if I could just do that, built into the prompter.
We got that.
So we can see that. So there's nothing underneath, there's nothing restricting camera movement. It's all held in there. The other benefits of doing this, of course, there's one power cable for the entire system. There's about a 3 kilogram weight saving. There's about 20% power savings. So there's a lot of additional benefits as well as the operational benefit.
Now, I saw this briefly with you at IBC. Funnily enough, one of the interviews that we were doing there last week, and it did look amazing. The quality of the monitor and everything looked fantastic. This is a new one for you guys, isn't it? What's the availability of these now?
We've just started shipping these. The first 6 went out to a major broadcaster based in Atlanta, US, and we're just starting to ship the rest of these now.
Brilliant. Simon, that's great. Thank you very much for helping us choose the correct prompter for our needs. Now, something that's going to be coming up next month is, and they're both agreed, I don't know why, we've got an AutoScript versus AutoCue. I need to have some kind of reverb system in here.
That sounds epic.
It does sound epic. Yeah, nice one. We're going to have AutoScript versus AutoCue head-to-head build. That's right, we're going to film both of them unboxing their respective equivalent AutoCue, AutoScript prompter systems and setting them up. And I have no idea how we're going to judge the winner, but we will see. That should be with you next month on Broadcast Show Live. Now, if you didn't know, a couple of weeks ago, I don't think you did a couple of weeks, I think it was, we had IBC. All the days merge into one around IBC. We were there and we walked about 25 miles over 3 days doing interviews with various manufacturers. And we basically, I think we did about 70 of these things, and they are all up on the broadcastshow.com/events page. I'm going to give you the full URL. Actually, no, I'm not, because look, there it is. That's the URL directly to the IBC interviews. If you can't be bothered to type that in, just go to broadcastshow.com. You'll see my ugly mug again, giving you some instructions on how to find the videos. And that'll be on the link below. Right. Earlier today, I had Richard Payne from Holdan come in, and we were having a little discussion about some of the exciting announcements that were revealed at IBC. And we recorded this, not so short, but very informative little interview. Go and have a look. So, Richard, welcome to the show. Now, obviously, IBC has just finished, and you've been having a wander around looking at all the new kits that's available. And you're going to highlight certainly some of the Holdan range of products that you've seen. So starting with, of course, some new Panasonic cameras. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yes, well, the first sort of major release from Panasonic at IBC has been the new AC90 camcorder, which is a fantastic small camcorder using 3 MOS 1/4-inch chips, XLR inputs, dual recording slots, being beautiful sharp pictures from this. It's a very wide angle for a small camcorder. It's 29.7, I think 29.7 mil. Actually, I think it's 29.9, and 15 times zoom. But the price is probably the most amazing thing about it. The list price will be $1475,
wow.
which for a camera with XLR inputs and the sort of pedigree this camera will have all the naturalistic colours and all the best aspects of the new range of Panasonic cameras. Excellent low light performance too, so it's a cracker for that money.
Do we know when we're expecting to see this?
Very soon. We're hoping to have stock in October,
Right.
so it's something which people will be able to see and play with very soon.
Excellent. Now, slightly on the larger scale.
That's right, yes. This is a camera that was released at NAB, but it will finally be available now. That's the HPX 600, which is a lightweight 2/3 inch professional camcorder. Some unique features about this, 3 kg. So even if you're going to keep this on your shoulder all day, it's not going to make you walk like Richard III. And also, it's got a great connectability. It's got Wi-Fi and Ethernet out of the box. And they had a lovely demo running at IBC with an iPad, so you could actually edit the proxy files as you've recorded them on the camera, and then send them back to the camera, and the camera would output the full res files through SDI. So you could edit in the camera and output from the camera, all from an iPad. Wonderful functionality.
So in an ENG sort of situation, you could have literally somebody there.
That's right.
Doing a little edit with the camera, and then boom, straight
boom straight out through SDI to a satellite link or whatever you wanted, without the need to have a deck there. So fantastic functionality. And also, this will be the first camcorder which you'll be able to upgrade to AVC Ultra that Panasonic have come out with. So their new codec. So it's very future-proof. So I'm really looking forward to getting some pictures with one of those.
Brilliant. And it would be remiss of us not to mention a certain Blackmagic camera. Did you get to have a look at it?
That's true. Well, I've been obviously the Blackmagic has been well documented, but there's a new Blackmagic camera which has been announced at the show, and they had a couple of models there, which has a micro four thirds mount.
Right.
A really good idea. The lenses are cheaper. We can use that wonderful Voigtlander 25mm, which we both love, I know.
Yes,
the 0.95 aperture on it. It doesn't have electronic control, so you have to use manual lenses, but it means you can use through adapters. Huge variety of 16mm lenses, and it's what everybody asked for. I think it's nice that Blackmagic have been listening to.
And it's a lot easier for them to convert
that's
other mounts as well.
Exactly.
The Canon mount.
Exactly. So you'll be able to use a vast amount of Nikon lenses, and a huge amount of lenses will suddenly be easy to adapt to use on the Blackmagic Cinema camera or on the Micro Four Thirds version.
Brilliant. Do we know when that's coming out? It's a Blackmagic timescale, obviously.
Blackmagic time. And we're hoping to have stock of those from Christmas. So a few months after the Canon EF version's coming out, but not too long to wait. So if anybody's got a pre-order in for the Canon one, they might want to switch to a pre-order for the Micro Four Thirds. That's right.
Brilliant. So that's cameras. Now, if we wanted to control these, specifically the Panasonic, Data Video got something out.
That's right. The new Data Video camera control unit will actually. This is just waiting for the still to come up. This will actually control 4 Panasonic cameras. So with the present EC4 controller from Panasonic, you can only control 1 camera per channel. But with one of these, with just a simple link, a BNC connector for the SDI and an Ethernet connector, you'll be able to control 4 cameras. So something like the new the HPX 255, which has a remote control socket on. You'll just be able to plug 4 of those into one unit, choose camera from 1 to 4. It will make low-cost studios much more affordable. Using Panasonic kit. So it's a partnership between Data Video and Panasonic. They've worked very closely on this product, but it's going to be lovely because we've been doing well with the 371 camera in studio config, and now we've got the 255, which is effectively an HPX 250 with ready to plug in a camera controller straight away. So with that combination, we'll be able to do some excellent low-cost studios.
Excellent. And do we know when this is due to be released to the public?
I haven't got a release date on this. We'd hope to see it certainly first quarter next year.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Now, a particular company I'm interested in is Teradek, and they've got some new products out as well.
Teradek. I spent quite a long time on the Teradek stand there. And one of the nicest things, especially after the Olympics, with watching and enjoying Usain Bolt's performance, I think Teradek had been watching too, because they've come out with the Teradek Bolt, which is a lovely little device. Teradek Bolt is effectively they're calling it zero latency, wireless video sender that can send 422 uncompressed video, so perfect quality, up to 100 meters, and from a transmitter and receiver, and the pair, the transmitter and receiver together, will only cost £1,325 list.
Wow.
So you'll be able to also send from one camera to up to 256 receivers.
Right.
So it's going to give you a sort of astonishing wireless camera control, as long as the range is right, for very little money. So
this is running over your standard Wi-Fi network.
That's right. You don't need. Well, it's not running Wi-Fi. It's actually using the Wi-Fi bands for transmission, but it's not a standard Wi-Fi, so it won't have any of the problems inherent in Wi-Fi. The way it works is by maxing out several channels simultaneously to get the sort of data throughput it needs to do uncompressed video. So we tested it on the stand, or on the Teradek stand. We could have Wi-Fi coexisting with it. It wasn't causing any problems. But I think if you had 3 Teradek bolts, I think in the immediate vicinity of them, you'd probably have trouble with 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi in the same room. But of course you could use 2.4. That would be on a different band.
So the idea is then that you can buy one of these kits. You don't need to buy an access point, or you don't need to,
nothing
you don't
else.
need any
It's 2
infrastructure,
cigarette
it's just 2
packet-sized devices, and you've got the ability to send video 100 meters uncompressed. And the latency just has to be seen to be believed. There's a tiny bit of delay coming off the head of the camera normally to the SDI output, but after that, this is not adding any extra latency.
That's amazing. And again, dates
that we're hoping to have beginning of October.
Brilliant.
So we've got the pricing now, and we're looking forward to our first shipment. So a couple of weeks away.
Great. And something else was the Link.
That's right, Teradek Link. This follows on from Teradek. I don't think we've got a picture of this, but this follows on from Teradek Bond. With Teradek Bond, I've done many demonstrations of this. I remember one at Television Centre where I was in the bowels of the building, and the only place I could get a decent signal. Teradek Bond is using multiple 3G modems and a Teradek cube in order to send pictures out from where you don't have an internet connection. So with what Link is effectively it's a Bond with Wi-Fi and a V-Lock battery mount on the bottom, and you can go and place that somewhere where you can get good 3G signal. Because in a basement of the BBC, I had to go and stand by a window. So with this, I could be in the middle of the room, and I could go and place the Teradek Link unit out by the window or on an upstairs floor, somewhere where I can access it. It's got Ethernet as well as Wi-Fi capability, so we could hardwire into it. It just gives the ability to put the 3G where you get a good 3G signal. Everybody knows the feeling of trying to get something on your phone, wandering around a room. You'd just be able to put the Link wherever you're getting the best 3G, or even outside on top of the car or high up. So that's the idea of Link. Very clever device. It can also send files back as well. You'll be able to upload proxy files, and because it's a larger device, it has more sophistication.
Brilliant. Now we mentioned earlier the new ENG camera from Panasonic, and Teradek have an ENG.
That's an ENG version of the cubes. Yeah, the cubes have proved to be very popular, and one thing people have asked for is a version specifically for ENG cameras, and Teradek Brick is exactly that. It basically will V-lock onto the back of an ENG camera, and you can place the battery on the back of that. One of its advantages is it has a single SDI input but 2 SDI outputs. So if you've got something like a red Epic camera which only has 1 SDI out, suddenly you've got 2 more even after sending the signal or recording the proxies on Link. On Brick. So with Teradek Brick, you've got this dual SDI output, but you've got all the functionality of the cube. It's a larger form factor, which means there's going to be a larger screen on the side. And they've told me there's actually a co-processor, so there are 2 processors. So it's a more powerful unit than the Teradek cubes at the moment because it's larger. They've got more area. So there'll be some new features coming for that later. But again, that's going to be available very shortly in October.
We like Teradek. They get them out quick.
They do, don't they? Yes.
Now, You mentioned a company I don't know, Intratec. What's that?
Yes, Intratec is a new manufacturer for us and someone we've been working really closely with, because one of the problems, Teradek has been going very well for us, but one of the problems has always been range. Because it's using standard Wi-Fi senders and because they're fairly low-powered devices. So we've developed one I actually have in my hand here. This will be available for sale in a few weeks' time, in about 2 or 3 weeks. So again, beginning of October. Everything's October. And what this will enable you to do, a Teradek cube can send video 30 meters on its own. With a good router, you could probably get that up to 60 meters, 70 meters by having the router in the middle between a cube sender and receiver. With our little box here, which will take power looped through the cube, the Intratec bridge, we're calling it, you have a little Ethernet link into this, and then we can send video 250 meters at least.
Wow.
So suddenly you'll be able to get pictures from awkward places where there isn't a connection at rock solid video, because it's using a very high quality Wi-Fi circuitry. This will actually do 50 megabytes a second, 50 megabytes. So it's a fantastic sort of data throughput megabits. I always get my bits and bytes mixed up. 50 megabits a second. Fantastic sort of data throughput. So you'll be able to send several cubes through one unit. And it will give us the ability to link to monitors. Where particularly, this is one of the uses for this will be on helicopters. So you'll be, because it's lightweight, it's only 230 grams. And a cube, it's only 200 grams. So for 400 grams worth of weight, you can send SDI at 8 to 10 megabits back over Wi-Fi. Very high quality video signal with rock solid stability. And even when we were 250 meters away in our tests on Monday, the pictures did not break up once. We didn't have one block, we didn't have a jerk. It was just perfect fluid motion. So we're really quite excited about this. And it's not just for Teradek cubes. You could use it with any device which encodes video and has an Ethernet output. So any Wi-Fi based device could be logged onto this, or any Ethernet device to send video. We could use it with the HPX 600 to send the Ethernet output hundreds of yards. And the second unit we're developing, which will be available about the same time, is called Bridge Duo. And it's in a Peli case, so it can take a V-lock, so battery-wise it will last for ages. But that's got 2 radios in. So if you want to log on with a bunch of iPads, you could have 10 iPads all watching the feed from the helicopter or watching the feed from over the fields. So it's just a little bit more flexible. And Bridge, because it's larger, has a higher output. So that should go half a kilometre plus. In fact, with the right aerials, you'll probably get a kilometre of range with a unit like that. So both of these units, they'll come in pairs, but there'll be combinations of them. But we're certainly aiming for the Bridge price, 2 units being around £800. So that's a transmitter and receiver. And with the Duo, both units should certainly be under £1,000. So it's not a huge amount of cost to suddenly get the equivalent of sort of microwave link distances.
Absolutely. And as you say, it's not limited to a Teradek cube.
No, it can be used with anything.
A lot of the cameras now have Ethernet out.
Exactly.
And you can put that on there and that give you that extra range.
That's right.
Well.
Yes, there's ENG cameras from multiple manufacturers now with the ability to do Wi-Fi. And in fact, Panasonic have released some new functionality for the iFi cards with the HPX 160. And you'll be able to send your actual footage straight from the camera, straight from an AG 160 camera, back to base using exactly the same units.
Brilliant. Excellent. So, we mentioned them earlier, and it wouldn't be IBC without talking about them. Blackmagic always seems to have a load of new stuff come out these days. So let's go through some of the Blackmagic announcements that they've had this year.
Well, it's as well as obviously the Micro Four Thirds digital cinema camera. It's 4K, and more 4K. It's, as we all know, 4K is the new 3D, and they've come out with the Ultra Studio 4K with a Thunderbolt connection, which is again typical Blackmagic. Changing the rules for absolutely everybody. And this is going to be a remarkable device with Thunderbolt output. Thunderbolt, by the way, is starting to be accepted on PCs as well. It's beginning to come through. So Intel, some Blackmagic products have been some of the first to be certified for Thunderbolt for PC as well as Mac. So it won't just be available for those who like the shiny Mac boxes.
So this will allow you to capture true 4K
that's right,
straight onto your, at the moment, Mac laptops or
That's right. And obviously you'll need sort of SSD speeds.
Sure,
I know little about this. I haven't seen one yet. I don't know what the functionality will be with 4K yet. But basically we'll do everything that the Extreme cards and the current range will do, plus the ability to do 4K as well. I don't know how set the 4K standards are at the moment, but this will give you a sort of future-proof. Anyone who's buying kit now will know that it will be useful for years to come. Also, there's a bunch of new converters which will give you multiple. I think there's 4 HDSDI ins and 4 HDMI out.
Right. Okay.
So you can either use 4K through dual link or through 4 single SDIs. And again, there'll be different sort of HDMI combinations for output. So you can get whatever your monitor is capable of taking, you'll be able to get 4K pictures to it. So these new mini converters, 4K mini converters, will only be in the region of £325. So remarkable value for money. Another nice announcement from Blackmagic is the ability now for the Hyperdeck studios and the Hyperdeck shuttles to use a new format called, I have to remember this, XFAT. XFAT, yes, it's like me after a diet. That's how I should remember it. And XFAT just means that at the moment, PC users with Hyperdeck studios and shuttle recorders have had to use some Mac Drive software, have to pay $40 on some software in order to format and copy the stuff on and off. No longer that you don't have to do that. This new firmware, you'll have to sort of flash the firmware on your devices, will allow you to use XFAT, which can be read by PC and Mac alike. So no longer a pain for PC users.
Yeah, that's a big deal for me because I'm Mac and PC, and I have
perfect. Aimed exactly at you.
And have they released that? Have they released that yet?
That's out already. Yeah, you can get that now. I believe you can. I must check. Also, there's a new Video Hub Master Control Unit which they showed. I'm particularly fond of this. When you get some of the more complex Blackmagic hubs and the larger switch panels, it can be quite hard to keep track of it. So what they've done is put a rotary switch and a small LCD control.
Right.
So you can choose your input on a rotary switch, choose your output on the rotary switch, seeing which number input and output you're connecting, and just take it. So it's going to make control of the larger hubs much more simple. In a sort of 1U rack mount unit. So a very clever device, and again, very reasonably priced.
Yes, always. Now, mini adapters, converters, these things. Just when you thought SDI couldn't get any smaller and cheaper, Blackmagic have come out with a mini monitor, and there's also a mini recorder. About the size, it's hard to see. You can see from the scale here, it's about the size of a matchbox. It is, yes,
and you don't even need a separate power. It takes power through Thunderbolts. So with this tiny little device, you've got, in this case, this is the monitor. So Thunderbolt in, HDMI and HDSDI out. Literally something you can fit in your pocket. You can connect to your Mac when you're editing with Premiere, Final Cut Pro, the usual subjects, Resolve, obviously. You can get outputs out to an SDI monitor or to an HDMI monitor. And you're just using the power through Thunderbolt.
You don't have to buy one of their more expensive older studio kits or something like that.
£99 for these units. Absolutely astonishing what they've managed to pack into such a small space. So there are two versions. There's a mini monitor and mini recorder. Recorder does what it says. So each device is only one way.
Again, the recorder if you're just
if you need to capture live, that's right. Absolutely perfect. And something which everybody should have in their kit.
Brilliant. So let's move on away from Blackmagic.
Sure.
It's difficult, I know, sometimes. There's so much stuff.
We had a number of meetings with a couple of new manufacturers where we finally signed up for the paperwork, and so we're going to be distributing Meta software, which is with the first new manufacturer. They make software for encoding, for live encoding and transcoding. They also do some asset management software as well. But initially, we're concentrating on the Meta's ingest software, which allows you to basically grab live using a Blackmagic card. We'll be able to grab 2 channels of SDI or HDSDI live into H.264, Flash, MPEG-2, you name the codec, we can grab live into it, and you'll be able to do that on 2 channels simultaneously. So if you want one high quality HS264 feed plus +1 flash feed, it can do that in real time. So it's real-time capture of two channels at once, so from different cameras, or the same camera channel captured in 2 different codecs straight away. So that we're looking at a price of a turnkey system with software, hardware, everything you need, being probably around 3K for doing dual capture. But we're still working on that. That should be something we have in a couple of weeks' time. And also Optibase, second manufacturer we've finally signed all the forms with. Optibase are a part of the Vitec group, which we've already been talking to through Focus Enhancements. But Optibase do higher-end H.264 encoders, MPEG-2 encoders, and IPTV systems. So although this is a new departure for us, it's a very logical place for us to be. We've got studios and camera equipment and post-production equipment, and now, of course, with the ability to deliver that out with IPTV systems and MPEG encoders. And there's a difference with the Teradek encoders are very much designed to be on camera for that sort of live production. The Optibase encoders are very rugged. They're used by NASA, used for missile testing and things like this. They're designed for 24/7 sort of high impact situations. So we've got a nice range now across our encoders. So I'm sure they're going to dovetail beautifully into what we already do.
Excellent, Richard. Well, you've basically gone through the whole workflow now from beginning to end.
I hope so.
Now, we spoke about a lot, and obviously people can go and have a look at the individual manufacturers' websites, but I suspect a good place to go would be to the Holdan website. I think
That's right. You can find all the details, and something like the Intratec bridge here is only available. The only info is on our website at the moment, where we'll give you distances and what it's actually capable of doing, which is going to be great.
Brilliant. So people should go and have a look at your website. Richard, thank you very much. It's been very
thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Well, that was earlier today, and an in-depth covering of some of the kit that Richard looked at IBC. I just want to point out, earlier in the show, we talked about the interviews, and we stupidly put up completely the wrong link. What you want is actually broadcastshow.com/events/whatever. It's there. That's the right one. Another thing that is coming on the website is a review section where we're going to be putting up regularly new, and that's the right link. We're going to be putting up new videos, hopefully once a week, covering different pieces of kit, things you need to know about various subjects. And we're starting with building a high-end workstation PC. And we've got Workstation Specialist. The first video with them, first of 5 in fact, is up there. Talking about CPUs. Now, normally at this time I would do a studio tour, but we're running over, so let's not do that. If you want to find out about the people who are helping us out on the show by providing kit, you will see those at the bottom of the BroadcastShow.com website. There's little logos down there. Click on them and you'll find out all the information about each of the suppliers and the people who have helped us out. So that's it for this edition of Broadcast Show. I want to thank Peter Savage, Nick Pearce, Raj Patel, Simon Clark, and of course Richard Payne for joining us on this month's show. We shall see you on the 17th of October at 7 p.m. for next month's Broadcast Show Live. It will be a fun-packed hour, I'm sure. Till then, farewell.